Hey, and welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at some FLM gear, and the new gear to me is this one. This is the CP-30 L3 Pro. I am 5'10", and as you see, if I raise up this entire center column here, the max height on this guy with the center column is actually 68 inches. So it's a big full-size tripod. And then there's this guy. I've already reviewed this previously and have a video on it, but this is the CP-26 travel tripod. And since I have both of these in hand, I thought I would take a couple minutes to talk about both of them and kind of feature the differences between the two, obviously travel and full size. But yeah, let's take a look at these. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is removing the center column. I am not a huge fan of center columns. I virtually never use one. So when you go to take the center column out, sometimes manufacturers have a split center column, or they have, everybody has their own slightly different thing. So I figured rather than floundering around to try to find it, I would just show you really quickly how that actually goes. So step number one, let's just take the ball head off. All right, so we're going to take the ball head, remove it. I have it on there pretty tight. Step number two, we're going to take this bottom hook off. So the hook is just this entire piece, just unscrews right out of the bottom of your center column. For step number three, you're going to need an Allen wrench, and you take the Allen wrench and you just take the center piece and just break the seal on it so that you loosen it up. And that was actually pretty tight. Take this off, and once you have the centerpiece out, the cork plate comes right out. Set them aside because you're going to be putting them right back on. And now for the center column, you actually loosen this up all the way. The twist lock, you just loosen it all the way up and you pull the whole thing out. So the twist lock you do not put in for the remove center column. You're actually going to mount this cork lock right back onto the spider, and you just take your hook up underneath, screw those two together, and you're done. It's off. And tighten it down a little bit for good stability and security. That's it. It's done. Okay, now that we got that pesky center column out, I want to basically take a look at the tripod from the bottom up. So I'm actually going to tip it over and show you the feet first. So the feet are retractable. You have a rubber foot that's there when you take it out of the bag. When you just twist it and pull, it reveals a steel spike built right in. And so the transition from one to the other is virtually instantaneous, and your spike is right there. I had actually inquired about the ability to take these out and put completely different feet in, and that is not an intended option. The feet are secured into the leg, and they are not intended to be removed. All right, the next, as we move on up, the twist lock mechanism. So these twist locks, and anybody who watched my review of the travel tripod, and I'll link that video up, it's the first time I'd ever felt the quality of FLM gear, and I was blown away. My mind kind of just short-circuited because it was so nice. And it really is. The quality of the carbon fiber and the quality of the tolerances and how they fit together, and the stability and just the solidity of how it's built is absolutely exemplary. You're not going to find anything better. I think it truly is industry defining. It is what you're what you're aspiring to have under your camera. One little tidbit that I did actually prefer about the travel tripod over this one is that on the travel tripod, I actually have it right here, you have the rubberized grips here are really, really, I love them. I think when you grab on, it locked in a little more solidly. This is aluminum. It's not chintzy in any way. It's really high end. But I actually preferred the rubber grip. If they offered them as an option, I would jump at it. I love them. They do have a secondary set of twist locks that you can get. And they are, they title it on the B&H website as a desert model, but basically it's for desert or ocean, and there's a felt liner in here that keeps the sand from squeezing up in, and getting into the actual mechanism that operates the twist lock. I spoke to the rep at FLM, and he said the one trade-off in that is you lose the amazing smoothness of operation. They tend to have a little stiffer operation because the felt is resisting against the carbon, and so, I mean, it's logical, it makes perfect sense. So they ship them with the non-waterproof version, or waterproof's a bad choice of word because there's no way that anything is sand or waterproof when you get out to the ocean like that. It's just, it's not, and sand finds its way into anything. Anybody that's had their camera on the beach kind of knows that. But it's preventative, it helps. It's a step in the right way. And it's $50 for the entire set of twist locks. So if you spend a lot of time at the desert or at the beach, probably a wise investment for the $50. It's not a cheap tripod, so it would be good to set it up correctly. All right, moving on up. So I actually want to talk a couple seconds about the carbon fiber itself. When you review a lot of tripods, and I have reviewed, oh gosh, I think 15 different companies' tripods now, 14 or 15, and there is a huge variation in the quality of the carbon fiber. You can feel it in the rigidity, you can feel it in how stable the tripod is when you have it set up, and in some cases you actually feel the tripod kind of like the legs wobble and waver, and they don't feel sturdy. This is absolutely 100% sturdy. I would put any rig on this tripod that I have. It's super, super heavy duty carbon fiber, and it is purely amazing, absolutely incredible build. So up at the top, again, having reviewed a whole bunch of different tripods with different mechanisms, one of the things that I had mentioned over and over and over in reviews is that I had wished somebody would spring load the little lever that almost everybody has to use, something like it, to control their feet. And FLM has done exactly that. So when you're adjusting the leg, you push the lever, and then as you're coming down, I think you can probably hear it click. It clicks into each of the 3 spots, and then you just pull it back out to where you have the resistance against the little shelf that it catches in there, and you're set. So this, I absolutely adore these legs. I think they work great. When it gets to the bottom, it releases that spring, so it's ready to go again. So you just literally each leg, when it gets to the bottom, it's undone and you're ready to go. Super, super high level engineering, and it seems like a silly, picky, tiny little detail, but it's really not. I mean, you're going to be using this thing. You buy a quality tripod like this, you're going to be using it for 15 years, 20. I mean, who knows? But the quality of that little detail, I absolutely adore. You already saw the hook mechanism that I pulled out. That hook mechanism actually retracts and pulls in and out about a half an inch or so to give you access to hang a sandbag on here for even an extra stability. One of the standard things for, I guess, landscape photographers to do a lot of the time is to fill their bag, the bag that the tripod came in, with rocks. And unfortunately, this doesn't come with a bag. So if you are really into having a bag for your tripod, you're gonna need to get that separately. All right, so the centerpiece is super solid. It has rubberized dripping around the side, and I already have this tightened in, so I'm not going to unloosen it or whatnot, but it just barely needs to unscrew here. You just kind of have to unseat it, and then it pops out. And obviously when the center column is on, you have the additional, I think it's 13 inches or something like that of the center column. So yeah, this is the legs, and this by itself is the CP-30. The kit that we have, including this ball head, is the CP-30 L3 Pro. So the next thing I want to do is give you a little rundown of the ball head. All right, now a look at the ball head. It's the CB48 FT2 or R, and I think they have the delineation, the model number, the 2 or the R, both mean the same thing depending on which one you have. I have the FT2, and I'll explain what that signifies in just a second. But first of all, I again want to go from the bottom up so that I don't miss any of the information or details on here. So it's a regular panning ball head, just like you would expect every ball head to be. When you tighten this panning knob down, it no longer spins, and when you loosen it, it does. The one nice thing, and when you, it's so hard to explain how things feel when you're just visually watching it on a thing, but it's silky smooth, really, really nice panning. When you engage this knob, which is the FT2, the delineation of 2 or R, is a 15-degree knob. You tighten it down, and what it's doing is it's engaging some internal notching mechanism so that every 15 degrees, it clicks into place. So the use case for that would be for panoramas. You're taking a shot, you move 15 degrees over, you take the next, and then as you're stitching your panorama together later in Lightroom, you have very, very accurately and consistently created a 15-degree passage of space with your ball head. Really, really nice touch. If you don't want it to click into place, you just loosen that knob up and it spins freely just like any other ball head would. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is the main control knob. The main control knob also includes a mechanism for memorizing friction. And it's slightly different than the friction control or the tension control knobs that you'd find on most other ball heads. A lot of times you'll have a little tiny set screw inside the knob, or you'll have a standalone knob that does it. This has a little dial mechanism right on the lever, but the way that it works is somewhat different. So the first thing you do is you loosen up the ball head all the way, and so it's flopping all over the place, and there's basically no resistance on here. Then what I do is I back off with the knob until I start to feel the amount of tension that I want to have for my gear. And realistically, if you're doing this in real life, you'd probably do it with a camera on here, so it's set up with the weight of your camera and your lens. But for illustration's sake, we're just going to go this route. And once I find the amount of tension that I like, I'm going to actually spin this knob until it stops. All right, so I'm dialing in. Apparently this is, I like a 10. It's quite a bit of friction. All right, you then proceed all the way this direction, spin the main control knob back, and now it's locked down completely. And when I come back to all the way loose, it goes to the exact friction level that I set and dialed in. And it will constantly return to that friction level until you repeat that process over again and you reset to a different level of friction for what you want to do. So I think that that's a particularly beneficial, useful way. I'm just going to back off a little bit and loosen it for the next illustration for you, which is the tilt knob. So when you have the ball all the way loose, and it moves around like a normal ball head would in every which way, you have an option of taking it and twisting this tilt knob and tightening it down. And what it's going to do is it's going to take away your other axis. The ball will only move up and down in a vertical panorama mode, but it will not go left to right or tilt all over the place. So again, a really useful tool in terms of getting a nice vertical panorama built in from that. All right, the next very quick thing I want to talk about is the actual plate at the top. So one of the things with FLM is that they use all standard thread sizes, like a bunch of the upper end companies do. I don't know of anybody on the real upper end that's not using a standard thread size, because they want you to be able to build the rig that you want. So, but they have a couple of different options for you in terms of the head, or the plate. So the quick release plate that I have on here right now is the SRB60, and it has two bubble levels, one at the end of the twist lock and then another one here. The more I've looked at gear and the more I've studied it and whatnot, I'm less and less obsessed about the bubble levels, because they're built into every camera that I own. Every camera that I have for probably the last decade has had a level built into it. So by the time you have that, it seems like kind of a throwback type of thing, but they're here, and I think that's fantastic that they're there. My own personal use case, I don't use them too much. This is the ARCA compatible version. When you twist the knob and loosen it up, this entire plate opens up. Any ARCA compatible plate is going to fit in there perfectly. I have a bunch of different ones. I have the Peak Design Capture. I have a ton of different manufacturers have sent me just a handful. Breakthrough Photography has sent me a bunch. I have a whole bunch of NovaFlex ones, a bunch of different great manufacturers, and they're all like slightly different. Everyone works perfectly in here. Haven't found a single one that isn't like rock solid perfect. The other option they have is the SRB70, and that's a lever lock mechanism. mechanism, and I don't have one to show you, but it is not ARCA compatible. So you just need to be aware that if you're going to go that route, you're going to need to buy the proprietary plates to fit the 70, but then you'll have a lever release. For my own preferences, I would go any day of the week with an ARCA compatible mechanism so that I can just move them in and out. Okay, so it's time for a quick recap. So this is the CP-30 L3 Pro, which has a 48mm ball head on it, and it's a 3-section leg with a 30mm diameter top width of the leg, and then obviously each one terraces down a little bit as you go to the smaller legs. The maximum height with the center column included is 68 inches, and for international use that's 173 centimeters. Without the center column it's 57 inches, which would be 145 centimeters. The minimum height with the center column removed all the way down to the ground is 4.7 inches, which is only 12 centimeters. And the packing size is 24 inches, 2 feet, or 61 centimeters. The weight of this setup is 3.8 pounds, so it's under 4 pounds for the whole setup, which would be 1.75 kilograms. And the maximum load that it can handle is 33 pounds, or 15 kilograms. All right, so I just want to offer a couple of thoughts on why would somebody spend $1,000 on a tripod. And I guess my innate response or innate question there is, why wouldn't you? Now this is assuming, and this is a professional tripod. This isn't a tripod that you get to put under a $250 camera body. It just would obviously make no sense to spend 4 times as much on a tripod as you just spent on your camera body. But everybody that's running around with $3,000 camera bodies, $4,000 camera bodies, I mean, you throw a $2,000 lens. So for example, my setup, I have a 5D Mark IV, and you throw any of the bigger lenses on there. I have the 100 to 400 or the 270 to 200. Any of those are going to basically be $2,000, $2,400 lenses. So you're dealing with a $6,000 rig, plus whatever filters and your microphone, if you have anything of that sort on there. You can easily start, you're closer to 10 grand than to 5 grand by the time you're all said and done. So you have all of that gear, and where I just don't get the rationalization of putting it on a less substantial tripod. So, and I reviewed a huge number of tripods, and initially, when I first started doing tripod reviews, I wanted to limit everything to $500, $500 legs and $500 ball heads. Basically, we're there with this. Anyways, it still kind of meets that category. You know, if you break them in half, 500 and 500, you're set. But I saw an awful lot of equipment that was good, but just not great. And I feel a whole lot more confident and a lot more excited and enthusiastic, and I'm willing to take a lot more of my mind off of the gear and onto my image making when I'm set up on top of really wonderful stuff. In my mind, you kind of, any product category, you're going to get the basic functionality of it, and then you're going to have tons of different quality levels. You can get a Kia, you can get a Honda or a Toyota, or you can get a Mercedes or a BMW. And the nice thing is, in the tripod realm, you're dealing with stuff that's running from maybe $200 or $300 to maybe the $500 range up to the $1,000 range. There are brands where you can easily exceed $1,000, but in this particular setup, you're under $1,000. That's really the value for the dollar there is just wonderful. If somebody offered you a 5 Series BMW for $28,000, you would jump on it, and I think this is kind of what that is. Wonderful German engineering. One of the things that I especially love about it is the fact that it does have some unique capabilities. It's not just that it's made beautifully well, which it is, but the 15-degree stop, I love. I use it all the time. And the tilt mechanism, the vertical tilt, I honestly don't use that terribly often, but I have used it, and I think it speaks a lot to the engineering that went into it and the quality of build of the product. The friction release I am a big fan of. and just the tremendously solid, beautifully crafted nature of what it is. In full disclosure, I do want to say that after I did my review of the CP-26, FLM did offer to let me keep the leg part of this. They didn't give me the ball head, but they gave me the legs, which I instantly, very graciously, and with much gratitude accepted, because these things are just super awesome. If you haven't seen my CP-26 review of the travel tripod, check it out. I'm not going to go through the whole thing here because this is already getting a little bit long, and we'll just leave it to the 30. But this travel tripod is stellar. And even though I have 15 tripods sitting in my house right now that have been given to me by different manufacturers, give or take 2 or 3, but somewhere around there, I'm going to actually buy this and use it. I unfortunately did not get the offer to keep this one for free. Wish I had. But I'm going to make sure that I have it under my camera, because my camera didn't come for free either. And I want to make sure that what I have under it is what I know to be what should be under it. So yeah, there it is. I hope that you've gotten a lot of useful information out of this. If you would be so kind as to hit the subscribe button, it would help me out tremendously. I will link underneath here a link to my discount codes and affiliate links. I don't have a discount code with FLM. They don't work quite that way, but I may be able to help you out in terms of getting a unit sometimes. If you want to reach out, if you're looking to get an FLM, I can try to give you a hand. It just kind of depends on supply and demand and where their inventory is. It's a very small elite company, so they run things in batches of like 200, not 20,000. So it's not. It'll just depend on the timing, but I would be happy to help you out in any way that I can, and happy to help them out in any way that I can, because they really are an asset to the photography community. But I do have affiliate codes for Mindshift Gear, Think Tank, Breakthrough Photography, Magmod flash modifiers and diffusers, and a bunch of stuff. And so I have put all of those up on a website, and that kind of helps me keep all this stuff rolling. So if you are going to get any of that gear, if you could pop over there and use one of those links, it would help me out. It's a little bit of a commission, doesn't cost you a nickel extra, and in many cases it gets you a free gift or some other kind of little promo or thank you. So I would really appreciate your support. And for everything that's gotten me this far in doing all these reviews and everything, I can't thank you enough. And I hope you have a fantastic week.